Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walterslaw, my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we are back now that the hockey season has officially concluded. We're going to talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup and the playoffs. There's also been a little bit of Ducks news here and there in this last month, so we'll cover that as well. Plenty of fan questions to get to, and we also have the draft and free agency coming up next week, so we'll discuss that as well. So I guess first things first, what have you been up to, Eddie? We've kind of had a break in action, so what's going on with you?
Just been hanging in there, started working again, so getting some extra income, so that's always a plus. Went to my third Vegas trip. I just had to get out and a little break from California, which was nothing short but fun. I stayed at Mandalay Bay. Was extremely impressed with them from start till when I left. Minus spending $70 on 2 drinks at the pool. That was kind of excessive. But I forget it's Vegas, and at least they did hook it up and put a little bit more alcohol, and it was probably one of the best mojitos I had in a long time. So that's a positive, but I had overall fun. I didn't jump off the stratosphere this time, which I'm planning to again at night. So hopefully my next time I go there, I can do that. Been hitting the gym still a lot. I lost some serious weight from 225 to 207 now. My pants fit loose, my shirts are a little bigger, so I had to buy some more clothes, but that's something positive. I finally did get a Wild Wing jersey I've been searching for a very long time. I almost bought a fake one, but luckily a lot of the fans on social media kind of schooled me on what to look for in that jersey. Mike, I think writing you once every other week, showing you pictures of certain jerseys, and you were right there helping me out too. And also I did finally get one of those tank tops from Bench Clearers. They're having a sale right now, like 20% off sale, so I ended up getting one of those. And I like it. It feels really light, and the material is great. The picture quality is awesome, so I can actually wear something Ducks related, like a tank top that looks like a jersey, especially in hot days like this. So that's pretty much it, Mike. How about you? I know you're on that weight loss thing and running, and you also ate somewhere too, which I'm kind of jealous of. How you been doing?
Yeah, I know I've been the same way as you. I've been, drinking less, just eating better. Really got back to running lately for me. Kind of talked about some of the stuff on my Facebook page. It's just been, a hard time this year with everything going on, trying to stay in shape, and you're stuck at home like most of us. You're not working, or you're only working a little bit, or whatever's going on. So, I trimmed down a lot, which was a good thing. And what ended up this last weekend was my wife's birthday, so her and a couple of her girlfriends and their husbands, we all went to Solani's, which was nice because we were able to eat inside. It opened back up finally in California, which was a good thing. And it's always a good time when you go there. Of course, the steak's always amazing and whatnot. So mainly that's really it. I've been working too, and then just working out. Just trying to stay positive. That's the main thing, which has been hard for this year, Eddie.
Oh, exactly, and I feel you on that. I've been trying to, instead of trying to sulk on this whole year, I just try to turn everything positive, especially that first time I talked about jumping off the stratosphere. I wanted everything to move forward from there. I've been doing that. Luckily, my one of my best friends, John Bash, he's a world-class athlete. He's a power lifter, competitive. He has the national record for bench in his weight class. He's going for the world record next. So he's been helping me a lot. I just been, being a sponge and having, listening and doing everything he tells me to do, and it's been working. I go to the gym, nice routine. I see people I know. They told me, as one girl told me today, she's like, hey, she goes, I can see like a lot of progress. From me when you first started coming, how early, I was a little bit more plump. Now I'm kind of toning down and feeling good. I'm in the best shape of my life in years, and I feel great. Just trying to stay positive though every day, like just even on those bad days too. Just kind of look at that glass half full, not half empty. I don't want to say it backwards. So just been doing that. So I've been banking on that, and it seems like you're doing well too, Mike. And like you said, that steak at Sonny Steakhouse, I've never had a steak that great in my life, and it was actually good that you actually got in there to sit in. I live in LA County right now, and you can't do that unless you sneak in a few places that I'm not going to throw their names out there. I'm not going to burn them, but it feels like I'm doing something behind my parents' back when I have to sneak through the back doors of restaurants just to sit down and eat.
Yeah, it is. It's tough right now. We got lucky. It's the first time too. All of us couples that we know each other actually got together. And of course we followed all the rules. We did all this. They had the social distancing and the masks and all that. So anybody that saw the post that was thinking that we didn't do the rules or whatever, we did. We followed all the rules. So don't kill me. But they allowed us to be able to eat there and had it all spaced out and everything. So even with that, it was still a good time. And yeah, it worked out, and I've just been doing some other projects around the house too. I've been having some work done and stuff like that. If you hear any weird noises in the background, that's probably what's going on, but hopefully you don't. But let's talk about hockey, man. The Stanley Cup, right? The Tampa Bay Lightning, the team that we predicted, won. They ended up beating the Dallas Stars. Pretty thrilling Stanley Cup final. Even though it was the team that Eddie and I picked to win, I kind of actually wanted Dallas to win in reality. I was one of those people that wanted Corey Perry and Caggiano and Hudobin, the former Ducks to win. But I thought it was really interesting talking to people about this whole thing. It sounded like a lot of people on social media really wanted Dallas to win. And then there was a handful of people that were kind of like, well, if Caggiano wins, cool. Hudobin, cool, but Perry, I'm kind of eh. It was interesting to see the opinions, but a lot more people for Perry than I really thought that there would be. I thought that was kind of interesting, Eddie. What did you kind of make of, we put out some of those questions to see how people felt? Because I know when we both said we thought Tampa would win, and they did, we got flooded with I want Dallas to win, I want Dallas to win. I'm like, well, I understand, I wanted them to win too, but I was going with, who I thought would be the better team.
Yeah, and then watching Dallas in this all their series, a little bit of a dirty team, and I know a lot of fans. If Dallas would have done that to the Ducks, the way they played against the Avalanche and the Knights and Tampa Bay, you'd be changing your tune and hating Dallas right now, and would never want them to win because they were just kind of a dirty team. They didn't need to play that way, but they did. Perry being Perry, I get the things that he does, but him spearing people in the groin. Using the butt of his stick to hit some guy in the face. Those kind of things are just come on, you're just asking for trouble because I don't care what sport I'm playing. If someone hits me in the groin or hits me in the cheekbone with their stick or anything, I'm doing some damage. So I didn't like that. So I didn't really want Dallas to win on just the way they've been playing that dirty way. And Perry, I was one of those fans that's never really been that much of a fan, of Perry's. I respect everything he's done, the play style, the Stanley Cup, the 50 goals, all that stuff he's done for the Ducks. But then he does those other things that I don't like. So I was okay with him not winning. I was more felt bad for Khudobin. He played great. He was that backup goalie that just assumed and rose up to the occasion and became a starter. And Cogs, I don't know what person can hate Cogs, but it would have been really good to see him lift the Stanley Cup. And even former teammates, him giving it to Perry or vice versa, that would have been kind of cool too. And another one probably is not too popular. I think Joe Pavelski would have been good to see him lift the cup. He played. I think he played great. He was probably one of the Dallas's best players of the whole entire playoffs. He was definitely a thorn in the Avalanche, and he's just one of those guys. He knows where to be in front of the net, and he just continuously gets those tips in. And I know he practices that 100 tips per practice, but it shows. So I mean, regardless, it was a good series. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning. You have McElhaney, you have Shin, and you have Maroon that won, which a lot of people were upset last night because Maroon won it, but. They played well. Congratulations to Stamkos, too. I know he played when he was hurt. He tried to come back in. He did score a goal, but I think he still deserves it. He dressed last night, and it was awarded to him as the captain, and he's been one of those players that elevated his team and makes everyone around him better. So congratulations to them and Stamkos.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was nice to see Stamkos win the Stanley Cup. I was rooting for him too. So I kind of had mixed feelings. A little bit more for Dallas, like I said. The only thing for me that was kind of the issue is I just really didn't like the officiating. I know we talked about it in our group chat. It just seemed like you had one team that would get a penalty, and then the refs would do a makeup call, or as we talked about before recording today, that they go in the locker room and we called too many this way, or we called one bad that way, and what I don't know. It's just too much even up refereeing. I just didn't like that, and I also don't like the way that one of those games ended too, and Tampa Bay, got that power play on a kind of a BS, for lack of a better term, penalty, and then they won. I just don't like that. It just kind of wrecks it for me. I hate when there's a bad call and then that directly results in the outcome of the game being affected, which it did there because they scored and won. And, I just don't like that, because even if you're that team, then I'm like, okay, great. Now the other side's going to feel like they got cheated, and then their fans are going to be upset. I don't know. It's just kind of weird for me. I just didn't really like the officiating. I did think overall the NHL, with the whole entire thing, they did a really good job, especially with, the bubbles stuff that they had to do, locking down everybody, making sure COVID wasn't an issue. I think overall they did a great job. I just that was my one little thing I just didn't really like, Eddie, about it was just the officiating in the Stanley Cup final.
Oh, I agree, and great job by the National Hockey League to put that together. It always seems like it's a common theme in every season, and it seems that it's getting worse and worse of these referees just not making the right calls, or they feel obligated when they do make a wrong call to kind of get one back for the other team, and that's not the way it works. It just throws off the integrity of the game. The league really needs to look at this and figure out a solution so they can have these playoffs run more smoothly, and not just the playoffs, but the regular season. And it's not just Ducks fans complaining, and it's every fan base has something to say bad about the referees, and it's just they're not making these right calls, and it seems like that they're blowing some of the games. And hey, you make the wrong call at the wrong time, and yeah, it's a 7-game series, but that changes the whole momentum of the team and the series. I don't know. It's just that's one thing that annoys me. It's not consistent, and it ruins the integrity of the game for me. I really hope the league, which I doubt they're going to do anything, but I really wish they would step up and maybe educate them or train them better or something. I don't know what the solution is, but that's just always a big factor in every series and every year.
Yeah, I agree. Well said, Eddie. One other little thing just to wrap up on the Stanley Cup final. We did have 2 bracket challenges that we were in. My buddy Andrew, who also runs a podcast called Deep in the Crease, if you haven't checked him out, had one with us and a couple other podcasters. And we basically annihilated everybody in that group. I did post that we had won, I think, halfway through the playoffs already, but we ended up with 200 points higher than the second place team. So Eddie and I did good in that one. We had picked Tampa Bay to win it all, and obviously that helped out too. And then we also had our own bracket challenge, which Steve won. He had picked Tampa Bay, along with a couple other people that came in second and third. I actually ended up fourth, which is kind of the highest. And I think that any bracket that we've had before, though I wouldn't accept a prize if I was the top third or top 3. But Steven ended up winning a $200 gift card from Cool Hockey, so thank you, Cool Hockey, for that. I still got to contact the second and third place winners, so I don't want to say anything on here, but they're going to get stuff as well. So thank you for everybody that did that. I hope you had fun. I know, no Ducks hockey. It's kind of been a weird time, but at least we were able to have a bracket challenge, and people got involved and had some fun with that. And, we ended up winning. We got supposedly some beer from Andrew he's going to send us, and then we're giving out some prizes on our own thing. So thank you for everybody for doing that. And we'll kind of roll into the Ducks now. We'll kind of get caught up, really, what's going on in this last couple months and where the Ducks are at. A lot of this information that we get is from Cap Friendly. So if you have a question about the numbers and whatnot, that's where we're getting these from. I just put that out there up front in case there's something different or you see something else. But in terms of the Ducks and where they're at right now, it's kind of a tough situation because we are going to talk a little bit about free agency. We've got a lot of fan questions to answer on the show. But according to Cap Friendly right now, the Ducks are only at $470,000 cap space available right now, which is basically almost nothing. So the Ducks are in a tough spot. They did, like we said, I know we did talk about some of this in the last show, but just kind of a recap. They signed some entry-level contracts. Jack Bonini, Bryce Kindop they brought on. Trevor Zegras got his entry-level done. Hunter Drew, Roman Durney as well. They also signed Cody Curran as well to bring him in. And a bunch of the other guys that they re-signed or gave extensions to was Sam Carrick, Sonny Milano, Troy Terry, Brendan Gooley, Christian Juice, and Yanni Hakapa, and as well Jacob Larson. So they brought a bunch of guys back. There's still some question marks with some players. Some of the notable ones out there that are restricted free agents that they haven't made a decision yet on, or at least at the time of this recording, because who knows, it may change in the next day. But Chase DeLeo, Alex Dostal, and Kiefer Sherwood. So there's those guys to still look for. We know Patrick Eves is done. So he'll be out as far as unrestricted free agents. And, of course, Ryan Miller is still a big question mark on that one as well. Eddie, I know there was another article on him in The Athletic. They were talking about it. He hasn't decided. I think it's kind of interesting. But what do you make of this Ducks situation right now? It's kind of tough. They don't really have a lot of room. The only other thing, and we'll go into more depth about it, but with Kessler, I'll just mention the number part of it. His contract's $6.8 million, so LTIR, they can do that and get some more money. But outside of that, this is a pretty tight cap. Going into the draft and the free agency, Eddie, as far as the Ducks and what they can do.
Perry's contract comes back to haunt us come next season. So it's not really something we can go out there and you see these big name free agents and you want the Ducks to go try to make a run at them. I mean, trust me, who wouldn't? Who as a Ducks fan wouldn't want the Ducks to try to make a run for Terry Krug? He's or Troy Krug or whatever. He'd be a great addition and instantly boost up our defense. He's a top player. But we just can't do it right now. And still, I don't know where the Ducks are as an identity. Like what are we doing? This whole little cute term because you want to put a bow on a participation trophy by saying retooling, but it's not. We're in a rebuild. We took on a bad contract for a draft pick. We're that team right now. I know Arizona was that team years ago when they took on bad contracts just to get their cap up and to get some draft picks, but Ducks don't really have an identity. Like, what are they going to do if we throw in a good player from free agency? Is that really going to fix our solution? We have a big defense problem. We have power play problems. Special teams hasn't really been there. We have a lot more to fix than adding one or two good players from free agency that we probably can't afford right now. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't expect the Ducks to go all crazy and try to go after these big name free agents. Just some minor moves as Murray usually does. And you have to think, too, Murray's not one of those GMs that wants to go out there and make a big splash. I think Shattenkirk, him trying to acquire or sign Shattenkirk last season was probably like the biggest splash of the free agency and stuff and deadline stuff. Or the free agency, I should say. Other than that, he didn't really do anything, and I don't really expect him to do anything. I'm more willing to see what happens at the draft and who we get at our pick. Drysdale, if he falls that low, if we pick him, that's what I'm more interested to see. And that's really going to see if the Ducks have more of a future. If they don't pick the right guy, he just ends up a bust. That's going to be bad too.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. I think the draft, it's all compacted, right? So you've got those 2 days of that and then the free agency right after that. So, we got a crazy week coming up here. And obviously we'll have a show after it's all said and done, the dust settles talking about it. But I think you're right. Murray's going to worry about the draft and figuring that stuff out. I also have Thomas is going to come on towards the end of the show. We're going to talk a little bit about that. He's written some articles on this and get his take on what he thinks the Ducks will do, at least in the first round and whatnot. So we'll have a little bit more discussion on that. But in terms of what we're looking at now with this team, there's not a lot of room. We don't have a backup goalie right now, so that's kind of an issue, right? We've seen Ryan Miller post some photos of pads, new duck-colored pads. So does that mean he's coming back or not? I don't know. He keeps going back and forth. There's not really been an official announcement yet, so there's that kind of issue. The defense, as you touched on, is a little bit of an issue. The Ducks still haven't signed Irwin or Delzato. They're both unrestricted free agents, so I don't know if either one of those guys is going to come back. I don't think both will. Maybe one, I don't know, but for sure both of them aren't going to return. So there's some things, and the Ducks have to work out and try and figure out. Another thing that was kind of brought up, and I'm glad it was, because Eddie and I, we kind of looked into this too, as far as trying to clear cap space. We're talking about Kessler and the LTIR. Andy Strickland of Fox Sports brought up that he said the Ducks are not looking to buy out Dave Backus. So there was another thing that we thought, okay, that they could try to do that to make some room, but they're not going to do that. So they could have gotten a few more million back by doing that. So that's where they are. I know there's some rumors too out there. I think, Eddie, you want to cover these. A couple websites are talking about certain players out there. Maybe you want to just bring this up and kind of discuss your thoughts on just rumor mill basically on social media.
Yeah, about Strickland's comment. Unless there's a penalty-free buyout period, it makes no sense for the Ducks to buy out another contract. Just we still have to worry about Perry's this season. I think Backus is 50 games away from hitting 1,000. Let him hit that milestone, and let him bring his leadership ability and teach the young kids how to be that leader. And unfortunately he wasn't the player he is anymore. He's working hard in Minnesota right now, training over there. Where he lives in the off season, so hopefully he comes back and contributes in that bottom six role. As far as other rumors that have been talked about, the Ducks had reportedly some interest in Sami Vatanen. You guys remember him? He should be familiar. Tony DeAngelo from the Rangers. Those were posted via NHL Rumors Daily, and that's one of the pages that's been hitting some rumors right, and they've been calling things out that happen. They mentioned on Spit and Chicklets podcast that it might be Gary Bettman's burner account as a joke, because they get some of these things are most of them right so far. So that's one to look at. Another one, Jesse Pavardi. We mentioned him from the Edmonton Oilers. He sat out and played over there in Europe because of contract dispute. He was rumored to be traded every single week I think every team was rumored to have him from the Edmonton Oilers. They didn't trade him. He's been linked to the Ducks. And also another name that's been dropped is Tyson Barrie from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't see the Ducks going to any of these players. I always mention you broke up with the Ducks for a reason, so why would you go back to Vatanen? I don't think he'd be that much of a solution for the Ducks' defensive problems. I love Vats, and he comes back, and that's great, but I don't think it's the best move. Tony DeAngelo's interesting. I would like him. He has a lot of potential, and he's already proven himself as a top four defenseman, and for the Ducks, maybe he can be that top pairing defenseman. But the New York Rangers have a lot of issues. They have cap space too, and they really want a genuine number two center. And I don't think that Henrique would make that possible. So we can just scratch him out. We discussed Pavardi that the asking price is too high. Barry's a low maybe. He had kind of a crap run in Toronto. He got a spark when Babcock ended up getting fired, but he just still underperformed. He played great in Colorado, and I know his capability. Him having the quarterback of power play. He has that potential, but I think the asking price is going to be way too much. And I just don't see that him coming to the Ducks and providing the ultimate solution that's going to bump up the Ducks to be a contending team right now. I think the Ducks should have to worry about a lot more than bringing in one player to help out their team. I mentioned this numerous times because I don't want the Ducks to do this, and that's one thing I'm glad that Murray's not trying to gamble on, is trying to bring in players and try to gamble on players to have that solution. You don't want to end up like New Jersey, and they're kind of stuck with a player like PK Subban that's like 18 points all last season and has played terrible. And hopefully he steps up and he gives them a better season. But I just don't want to be in that predicament, and the Ducks are stuck with all these contracts or trading away players, and just like the New Jersey Devils. I think they're further away from the Ducks than actually being competitive than the Ducks are. So that's my take on those rumors.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see any of those really happening, especially when it comes to other players, that were on the Ducks before and coming back. Murray's kind of usually, I don't really see that happening, which, we'll also have a little bit of a discussion with Bobby Ryan, too, on this, right? Because he got bought out, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, bring back Bobby, right? So, I'll save that for a little bit later. But I don't really see that kind of situation with Sami Vatanen. I'm not against it. I think we talked about that in the last show too. Certain players that they try to bring back, I'm not. To me, it's not always a bad thing. Look at Francois Beauchemin, right? But it doesn't seem like Murray does that too many times. So I don't know if that would happen, or any of those other rumors as well. It's just those are all the names to look and follow. I think part of it that's tough too is, like we said, you're up against the cap right now, and the Ducks don't have a lot of room. They put Kessler on the LTIR. You get that space, but don't forget he's got a contract for the next 2 years, and then he's out. So it's kind of the Ducks are in a bad spot, because if you do go out and get one of these big name players, and again, we'll have some more fan questions on this, you may have them for a year or two, or how are you going to work that out? And then when Kessler's gone, you don't have that LTIR. You're still paying Perry too, right? This next year it's going to be terrible. They're paying him $6 million, and then the following 2 years they're paying him $2 million. So it's going to drop down after this next year, but you're still paying him on top of that, which is making more problematic. So yeah, that's why I kind of tread lightly with this. Plus, we saw at the trade deadline, Murray went nuts and basically, undid some of the stuff, like getting rid of Devin Shore after he traded him for Cogliano and things like that. So I would take all rumors involving big names with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that the Ducks can't get it done, but it would have to be some kind of a trade. It wouldn't be just some kind of free agency signing, in my opinion. And that kind of brings us to our next topic, because we had Adam.T-Town asked us, will the Ducks sign Laine, right? Because that's another name that's been thrown out there, throughout the league. And it goes towards something that Eddie found, which was pretty cool, is Puck Empire had a discussion about things that the Ducks could do, and it involved a trade with Patrik Laine. They said blockbuster trade. And this is kind of what they suggested of how to rework the team. Like Eddie talked about this retooling, rebuilding, all this silliness, but this was kind of their roadmap of, hey, this is how you can kind of get the Ducks back in the right direction. The real big part of this was blockbuster trade. They were talking about the Ducks getting Patrik Laine, bringing back Matthew Perreault in exchange for Henrik Manson, Dostal, and a 2021 third-round pick. I highly doubt this would ever happen. I mean, it's just too crazy for me. Sending away, we talked about who would be the next captain after Getzlaf and all that kind of stuff. Henrique, I just don't see that happening. Manson as well. I don't know. That's a pretty hard one to swallow. I just don't see that unfolding. But Puck Empire did have some other things on there that made more sense, and it's definitely Murray-esque for sure. Looking into things they talked about. One of their RFAs that we mentioned that was unsigned, they need to bring back Sherwood. That's an absolute, I agree. I love the guy. I think he's a great energy guy, good character guy to have. They talked about Mike Smith, goalie, possibly bringing him on. I could see that if Miller does retire. Another interesting one was bringing defenseman Tim Heed. Like we talked about, the defense has kind of been questionable, so that's something else, right? A couple UFAs on the cheap, so to speak, that they could bring. Then they also talked about a couple trades. They said maybe send Rowney to Detroit for a 7th-round pick. I could see that. Delorier to Nashville for a 2022 5th-round pick. I kind of highly doubt that after the extension he got. And then they also talked about Heinen to Columbus for a 2021 3rd-round pick. Maybe I could see that. But blockbuster trade, for sure I say no, Eddie. This other stuff is all pretty interesting. I like most of it. And I think if those things don't all happen, or some of them, I could see similar type things happening. Like we said, Miller's up in the air, but the Ducks are going to have to go get someone unless they bring up a goalie from the minors.
Yeah, definitely. And it was really, really interesting to see this. Thank you to the Puck Empire. I DM'd them, and even though I credit everyone for their work when I use it, I wanted that permission, and they were more than happy to say, yeah, go ahead, go for it. I agree with all the free agent signings, or the restricted free agent. Sherwood, definitely, we want him back. Mike Smith is something that someone that can take that kind of lower contract, and he still can be a capable backup goalie. And it seems like a Murray move. And Tim Heed's a right-handed defenseman that can play that bottom 6 or maybe the 7th defenseman and be an upgrade, and definitely upgrade in Holzer and Dalzotto. I would still like Dalzotto to come back. I think he's a decent 7th spot. He can play in that 6th role if needed with injuries, which the Ducks have been plagued with for the last few seasons. I like Laine. I think he has a lot to bring, and I think if the Jets trade him, it's going to spark something. He's just going to go on an absolute tear. I just don't. I can't see this trade happening. Number one, I can't see Murray going for this big of a blockbuster. Number two, if we did trade out our second a center, it's in Henrique and Manson, we're just left with, someone that's really inexperienced to take on that top six two center role, which isn't fair to throw him in there and expect him to perform, especially given Rico's last season numbers. And then Manson, I still think he's going to have a breakout season next season. He was injured. He had a few rough patches. I saw that potential of him getting back to the form. But if we lose him, now we're down another top four defenseman, and now our defense is even worse. And Dostal, I don't want to lose him right now. I don't know what he is. He seems like he has the capability of being, a future number one goalie, if not, a number two, a capable backup, 1A, 1B kind of goalie. I still want to see what he brings to the offer, or what he brings to the table. But this trade doesn't really solve anything. Yeah, it's going to get that top line of a few more goals, maybe increase the power play goals, but I still can't see the Ducks, just them changing their whole way and being a contending team, bringing in one superstar player like this, because there's still a lot of holes in the Ducks lineup and a lot of holes that are going to be. All the trades minus the Laurier one makes sense, especially trade deadline last season. Murray traded a lot of those lower players, things like that. Heinen, I think it's a little bit too early, but if he doesn't perform well, he's not reaching to the player that the Ducks want him to be, that development in Anaheim's not going great. I mean, sure, shoot him to Columbus and get a third round back. I think that's a decent return for him. Rowney, I can see going for a seventh. But other than that, I love the free agent signings and the restricted free agent signings. I like the trades minus the Laurier, and the blockbuster one, it's decent, but I can't see it happening, and I can just see it creating more problems in the Ducks lineup than it is helping. Adding about 15, 20 more goals for the season, increasing your power play and being maybe the third to the last team in the power play and for special teams isn't going to get the Ducks to that next level and back to that competitive nature.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head too. Just the same thing that I said as well. I just don't see it. The big name like that, and then giving up, like you said, sending Uncle Rico and Manson out. I just don't know. I just think that's a little bit too much. I know Murray likes Manson a lot, and Henrique's been doing really great for this team. Obviously, the Ducks didn't do well last year, but he was one of the leading scorers. So I just don't see that. I think Murray's going to rely more on the young talent, like we've talked about. You hit some of them, but we still have Comtois and Lundstrom in the system, right? Jones and Terry that can pick it up as well. There's just a lot of stuff. Plus Zegras, of course, right? Is he going to bust out next season or the year after that? Who knows? There's a lot of hype around him as well. So I think the Ducks are kind of in this weird transition period. And I remember Eddie mentioned it earlier in the show. We don't really know what the Ducks' identity is right now. And trying to make a huge, crazy trade like that to really shake stuff up, I don't think it would help. I think it would hurt more, as Eddie talked about. So, but it's definitely interesting. Check it out. We had a discussion on social media about it. A lot of people weighed in there. We thank all your opinions on there. It was a good, lively discussion. A couple of little other things about the Ducks this last month or so, Eddie. I know you kind of wanted to cover it. There was the sad part of the show, unfortunately, but a couple little anniversaries that you wanted to discuss, and then we'll also talk a little bit about what some other Ducks are doing as well. But did you want to cover you want to give the tributes to Soleil and Todd Ewan, Eddie?
Oh, yeah. Just to piggyback real quick on what you mentioned about Jones and Terry, I still think Terry is one of those players that can rise up to a top scorer for the Ducks. And Jones, too, if you guys didn't see his Instagram stories, after throwing up 315-pound bench presses. So he's been hitting the gym. Hopefully he's more stronger, and he's a force to be reckoned with. So look for those two players to step up next season. The tributes, too, they're a little bit sad, but we want to talk about them. 9 years ago on September 7th, the Locomotive hockey team, including Ruslan Soleil, which everyone calls him Rusty, they died in the plane crash. Continue to rest in peace. We posted a pretty good tribute for him. So that was pretty good. A little bit emotional to read a lot of the articles back on it, and then seeing other teams' tributes to other players, especially the KHL and their tributes. Also, September 19th, former enforcer Todd Ewing, he died via suicide, which is really unfortunate. He was part of the franchise's first ever trade and served as one of the team's first alternate captains. It's one of those things. It's really sad seeing videos of him writing the children's book. It's just how positive and happy he was. It just came to a shock to everyone. I know the Blues, it's a tribute too for him. He played for the Blues. It's just one of those sad situations. It's one of those unfortunate things. And I've lost people to suicide. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have. And Mike and I will always say this. And I think all of our DMP staff would say this. If you guys ever feel that way, you guys can hit us up. You guys can send us a DM, talk to us, and we're more than willing to talk to you about anything. I don't care if you want to talk about your problems, or we can just talk about hockey. You can talk about how much you hate this player or Murray's, anything. I don't care you want to talk about. You want to talk about the difference between wet paint and dry paint, or fast drying paint and faster drying paint. We're definitely willing to talk to you about anything. Get your mind off of it. I know it's hard. It's mental health is something that no one ever has a grasp on. It's really not really talked about, but it's something that needs to be more talked about and made more mainstream, so people don't feel isolated when they're dealing with stuff and think they have the problem. Because no, it's not just your problem. It's all of our problems. Because whatever you're feeling, I'm pretty sure one of us has felt that at some time in their life. But we had people to talk to. We kind of overcame it. So if you ever need anyone to talk to, go ahead and just shoot us a hello, shoot us a DM. Don't feel embarrassed. Talk about anything. I don't care. And I know a lot of you guys DM me. I don't know if you guys DM me because of that reason, but I love talking hockey. And so all the people that DM me, I love talking. And I always respond. And we have a good chuckle and a good conversation about hockey. And it's just, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I have a lot of people on Twitter and social media that I probably never even met before, but I still talk to. We still DM. We still have that personal connection and relationship, and I can call them my friends. It was a mouthful. Sorry. There's one other or two more tributes I want to do. 9/11 just passed, and I want to just I want to throw that out there to never forget. 9/11, we all came together, and that word united, we stand, divided we fall, really meant something. I did an article on someone that lost a mother figure in the towers that inspired him to join the Marine Corps, him and his buddy. So that was really insightful and an eye-opener. So that was pretty good to see. Like I said, if you lost anyone, I'm sorry, and we're never going to forget where we were on that day. And I can tell you, my memory's shot, but I know exactly where I was and what I was doing that day, and it wasn't good to see. On a lighter side, semi-Ducks news, September of 2018, I want to pay tribute to the glass at Anaheim Ice that was broken by either Kessler's shot or Blandisi's shot. Blandisi, I guess people at the practice said that Kessler was responsible for it, but Blandisi took responsibility for it on social media. So on the lighter side, and a little joke, rest in peace to the glass at Anaheim Ice.
Yeah, exactly, Eddie. But yeah, just to go back to what you said, any little thing that you guys have that's an issue, I've talked to some people too, whether it's you're just having a bad time or whatnot. If you need to talk to anybody, Eddie and I are always here. We've both gone through different things. And I'm actually going to open up about some more stuff here in a little bit in relation to Kessler's thing, which we all learned a lot. Or if you haven't heard, it's going to be new info for you as well. So we'll talk about some more stuff here, and maybe I can help somebody out too with this other situation. But before we get to that, just a couple little other things that were out there regarding former Duck type players or staff. Toronto Maple Leafs did hire Ducks former assistant coach Paul McLean as their assistant coach, and then his son is also an assistant coach with their AHL team, the Marlies. So it's just something to look at. Also, Chris Stewart did retire from hockey, and now he is a player development coach with Philly. So a couple little things, just out there, just little news if you didn't catch that and whatnot. But we're going to spend some time on this. This was kind of an eye-opening thing, I guess for the Kessler part of it, though some of it for me personally isn't necessarily eye-opening, and I'll explain here. But if you didn't see it, they had a documentary. Kessler was in it, Bobby Ryan, the Ducks' former strength and conditioning coach for the Gulls, Justin Roethlisberger. Say that 5 times fast. But they were all in there, and they talked about the situation involving basically pain pills, specifically Toradol, and just all this stuff. It's just crazy, this whole situation. But what we learned about Kessler I guess if you want to say he's retired, he's now kind of officially retired, which we kind of knew, but in the video they refer to him as a former NHL forward. And he talks about all the different issues he had. We know about all the multiple surgeries he had. He played up to his 1,000 game, which was the milestone that he wanted to get to. Obviously, the hip was a big problem for him, having to do multiple things with that. But with this Toradol thing, it's kind of crazy because he talks about it in here. And it's kind of a scary thing, Eddie, is that they had to rely on painkillers, which isn't really a shocker, right? I mean, we kind of all know that. If you look at the professional sports, especially football and hockey, right? Those are the two probably the most difficult ones that players turn towards pain pills. I mean, that's the nature of the game. You get hurt, you try to play. They either have the pills that they take, or they have the liquid injections that they take, things like that. And obviously, there's a whole host of other therapies as well. There's water treatment type stuff, massages, all that other kind of stuff. But I think what was crazy about this and kind of disturbing from my point of view on this, Eddie, is not that they have this, but as Kessler talked about in this video, and if you haven't seen it, please watch it. We'll post. I think I posted the link on social media, but if we didn't, we'll revisit that for you. But it's kind of disturbing, Eddie, that this stuff happens. And I understand the trainer situation, especially in the goals. Like, you're trying to get the players out there. There's also, you're balancing that the player wants to play. The coaches and the team want that player to play, but then you're trying to weigh out the health concern. And a lot of times in the heat of the battle, you're intense, you want to play. I know that from playing football myself, and getting hurt as well. You want to go out there and just go back at it. But I think what's scary with this one specific drug is the other problems that come with it, Eddie, as far as like the intestine issues and stomach issues and things like that, and the lack of information that players are given. I know the NHLPA is working on this because they were talking about that, and they're doing things at least to kind of rectify this. But it's a huge problem, Eddie. I think it's just crazy because it's short-term effect, but to play in a game, but then it has long-term repercussions.
Oh yeah, it was kind of sad to see. This was really an eye-opener, and I have that I guess that hardcore old school mentality that you're a warrior, keep going. But for them not to educate the players, and the players aren't going to sit there and ask them what this is for. They want to go back out there and they want to contribute to their team, and they want to have be those warriors. It's sad to see that, and hearing Kessler that can't even have a normal life, and him talking about his sons. They don't even ask him to play catch anymore because they know he's too much in pain. Something like that's really it's horrible to see, and especially from a player like him. And he's not asking for your sympathy. He's not asking, blaming anyone. He posted on Twitter saying that they were his decisions to make, and he would do it all over again for his team and the game he loves. That's just the type of player he is. But there has to be a different way, and there has to be some more educational tools that the National Hockey League to go for. This past season, they wanted to bring awareness to social issues that are going on, and they put focus so much on that. But why not add some more focus on educating players on pain pills and stuff? It's not right to have them go and kind of sacrifice all their body and their livelihood and their life after hockey, and for what? And it's for nothing after, because once you retire, you're done. Like Andy Sutton said on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, like, once you're done playing hockey, there's no celebration, there's no bottle of champagne. You're just done. Everyone just kind of drops you, and you're on your own. And there has to be something that can help out these players. I remember in the Army, I broke during basic training, I broke my thumb, and they wanted to send me home because it was kind of bad. And I told the girl, I was like, hey, if you send me home, I'm not coming back. I'm not gonna, either I graduate with my original class that I started with, or that you guys can file paperwork for AWOL, because there's no way in hell I'm gonna come back once you send me home. And what did they do? They gave me Percocets, they gave me painkillers, Tramadol, and every time I asked for it, they didn't explain the repercussions. I didn't get like a big old paper or list like you usually get from your pharmacy that explains stuff. I just was given the pills, and you just go run with it, and you take it and move on and thrive on. And that's the Army did a lot. They just give you pills. I know a lot of you former service members from any branch, you probably know what I'm talking about. Even up to now, I'll go to the VA or the doctor, and I'll just ask them for certain pills, and I get them. There's no question. There's no education. That's my responsibility. I have issues from the Army, and I'll take responsibility for that. And I've looked them up myself, and now I switched up different medications that I take because I know the long-term effects on certain painkillers and things like that. But I think it's the NHL's responsibility to help out and explore other options. The former goals strength and conditioning coach, I really hope that this isn't true from the Ducks, but part of me believes him, what he's saying. It's just disgusting that they would fire him, and they want you to align, like he said, they want your alliance lies with the staff and management before the player. I think that's disgusting, and I think that I really hope it's not as bad as he describes, or maybe I just don't want it to believe that because Ducks are my team, but there has to be a different way, and there has to be a way that you can get these players to rehab their injuries, to get back to playing to their capabilities, and then have a good life after hockey, because you should be able to play with your kids, go play hockey with your kids, play catch with your kids. You shouldn't have to just every single day have to do a routine just to function semi-normal. I don't know. This was a big eye-opener, and I hope you guys watch it. It's only 32 minutes to be exact. It's a really good eye-opener. I hope the league really takes a look in this and takes this in and tries to educate their players and find other alternative methods than giving players a shot or shoving pills down their throat.
Yeah, I mean, the part that you talked about too, as far as like the trainer having to do these things and the team doctors and stuff like that, that's what the league's trying to work on, because there's kind of this, at least from what they were talking about in the video, this, hey, if you ask for a second opinion, you kind of almost get blackballed, or you're kind of like, well, you don't trust us, yada, yada, yada. And it's just like, well, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's like you mentioned, it's my body, my health. I have to look forward to my life after my professional career. So I need to see, what, sometimes doctors don't always have the exact same opinions. So that's what the Players Association is working on, is allowing that without, being not making it such a, you're pressured to only listen to one person. So they are working on it. So we're going to have to kind of monitor that and see. But it is interesting. You watch that. It's a kind of an eye opener. Like Eddie, I had the issue with I didn't personally have the issue with the pain pills, but I played football in college for 2 years, and I played in a semi-pro league for about 5 years, and it was the same thing. There were guys that would get hurt, and I'm not going to dime anybody out, but there were people that had to take the pills, and unfortunately opiates, you can get addicted to them, and they can cause all kinds of these health problems that I saw with other people. A lot of it has to do with digestive and bathroom type issues, and that's a sad thing that Kessler was talking about, having this now Crohn's disease that he's talking about, which is kind of a result of having these kind of pills or taking too many of them. And I also, you all know that my mom passed away on New Year's Eve before the calendar year started. But she had that issue too. She had some physical ailments, and she got on these pills. And I saw her go through the same thing where, like Kessler was talking about, my mom, she would have to go to the bathroom, a couple dozen times a day, because it's just the way that the medicine worked, and her functionality deteriorated. Because I remember as a kid going to the Duck games, and it was always fun. She'd go and we'd watch, and then later on in life, she couldn't, because she couldn't sit there for 3 hours and watch a game. She'd have to constantly be running back and forth to the restroom. So things like going to movies or sporting events or anything that required long-term sitting, she wasn't able to do. And these kind of treatments really affected her too. And that's really when I first got exposed to it. And then that was more my, I'd say, end of high school, college years, and then of course, like I said, with football as well. So I'd seen this. And again, if anybody out there, like we talk about the other mental issues, if any of you are having, pain type stuff and you want to know more about these kind of medications or whatever, Eddie and I both have experience. So definitely reach out to us, or if you have a story you would like to share, we can share it on the future show or whatnot, or there's some other questions about it. We're more than happy to address it. But, unfortunately for Ryan Kesler, he's going to be done, and it's just tough, man. I just hope that the league works on this better, because it's definitely something doesn't just affect the NHL. It happens, and football is another big one, like I said, but it happens in a lot of sports too as well. So with that, we'll go ahead.
Oh yeah, one more thing. Else? Yeah, I did reach out to the former strength and conditioning coach. He was thankful for me reaching out. He said he'd be happy to chat to see if there's a fit. So hopefully I can talk to him more, and if you guys have any questions, hopefully he'd be willing to come on the show and just kind of do a Q&A. You guys send us your questions regarding anything you have from that, or any like medication problems that you want to talk about, and he can educate you and he can answer those questions in the show. So if that's something that a lot of you guys would like, send us a DM too with some questions, and I can either see if he's willing to come on the show. If not, just shoot him your questions and then shoot you his direct answer. Either way, just to educate people and try to prevent something that's long term, and kind of make sure that a lot of people just have that better quality of life, because that's what it's all about. It's if you have a crappy, or I'll call it shitty too, quality of life, it's just that's the worst thing ever.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, Eddie. I almost forgot. So look forward to that too. Even if we don't get him on the show, maybe we can at least have him do a Q&A, and we can type up an article or something on that as well. So, but look for that. Like I said, if you have any questions regardless, you can always hit us up about that. And speaking about questions, we got a bunch of fan questions. So we're going to do that, and then talk about a little bit more of some league news here in a minute. But a lot of questions about improving the Ducks team. Kind of read some of these, and Eddie and I can kind of we can lump them together because they overlap, or they kind of go the same way. But we had Tyler J6710. He asked, are there any options to address the needs that they have with cap availability? Obviously, we talked about the cap space being super tight. The only relief coming in the form of Kesler, is obviously we just went into his whole situation. We had D.A. Poppy also asked, will the Samueli spend money for a competitive team this year or wait for a cup run? It kind of goes into that as well. And then we also had Larry. He asked about notable free agents. Bobby Ryan, as we talked about, was bought out. Would the Ducks try and bring him back? A lot of this, Eddie, we kind of covered it a little bit earlier, but you kind of look at some of the free agents. There's some names out there that we like. The Ducks could maybe try to bring back. I definitely think Bobby Ryan would be a tough one, though. His current salary is $7.5 million. He'd probably maybe get a little bit less, but like we said, the Ducks get another backup goalie, and then you have the relief from Kesler. You're still kind of up against the wall. I don't see Bobby Ryan coming back. Like we said, it doesn't seem like Murray is the type to bring back previous players that often. I'm not saying it's 100% no, but I just think it's a slim chance. There's a couple other players we can mention on the list here, but overall, with these fan questions, what are your thoughts? I think, like you said, the team lacks a sense of identity. And as far as the direction of the team, which I think is kind of the overriding issue of these questions, I don't see big name players coming. I see Murray focusing on the draft first, which he should, because that's first, obviously, right? And then I think he's going to hope that some of these younger guys have breakouts this year, as we mentioned earlier in the show.
Yeah, same here. On Bobby Ryan, I think he deserves a little bit better. If you've had a bad run-in with the Senators, playing for them, he overcame his addiction. You never really overcome it. You're always battling it day in, day out. I know a lot of issues might trigger something if he comes back to Anaheim. Who knows? I want him on a team that's competitive, and he can, I guess, get that fire back in him and be that player that he once was. As much as I would love it, and I would be probably one of the first people to get a Bobby Ryan jersey again, I want him to play somewhere where he has a chance to compete for the Stanley Cup, and the Ducks aren't in that position right now. And I think one of the questions if the Ducks want to spend money for free agency for a cup run, and if there's any options, stuff like that. I think the biggest obstacle right now is Murray, and I'm sorry to say this, but I don't think he's the GM of the future, and I don't think he's going to be the GM that will ever bring a Stanley Cup to the Ducks. Thank you for everything you've done, and I respect that and love all the hard work and dedication you put into this team, but I just think we need to move forward and to go on to someone different that's willing to make maybe some gambles and some bigger splashes that can help the Ducks elevate their game and to win a Stanley Cup. I trust him for the upcoming expansion draft, but I keep saying this. I know a lot of people agree. Maybe some other people have other opinions, but I just can't see Murray making the type of moves the Ducks need to reach that Stanley Cup. He's been in this role for many years, and the Ducks have been on a dry spell, or haven't won at all, and really haven't had that much success in the postseason. And I say that much because anything less than a Stanley Cup, what the Ducks had rosters years ago, it was a failure. I think it's time for a much-needed change. I know, but that's one of the hardest things and probably most feared thing in America is change. But I think it's time to move on. And after the expansion draft, after that next season, I think it should be it for Murray, and we should try to bring someone in. Some fresh blood and some new things. We have a new coach now, a younger coach. He's still filling it out and getting, I guess, his feet wet in his second go around. But I think it's time for a new GM. That's one thing that I'll keep saying, and I won't ever backtrack on.
And that was a hot topic this week. We saw Tampa Bay obviously win the Stanley Cup. Aaron and our staff was talking about their win now mentality. Obviously, Phil, super happy, right? He runs the Bay Bolts part of the Puck Network. And, of course, them winning, he was super excited, which I don't blame him. And he was very critical, like you were, about the GM. He wanted us to discuss how he hasn't done a whole lot recently as far as, big moves and whatnot. And George even chimed in, too, saying Murray kind of dropped the ball by not making a lot of big moves. The Ducks had a cup window. Obviously, that window is now gone. And another fan question that kind of just put these all together, but we had Preston House 92 asked, I hope the Ducks make the playoffs this season. If they end up finishing at the bottom again, do we go in a full rebuild? And I don't think that's the answer. I don't think this team needs a complete makeover. Right? I mean, Murray already moved out some people to try and shake some stuff up. That stuff didn't work, so then he gets rid of those people. That just hasn't worked out. The younger players, I think, have worked out for the most part. Unfortunately, some of the time we've lost some. Obviously, we talk about Theodore, and a lot of people saw what he was doing in Vegas, and they're upset about that. So I think he's done well when it comes to getting players out of the draft and picking up people, and I think that's what they're looking at this next time around. But the majority of us, and I'm with Phil and George, and I think all of us on our staff pretty much on the same boat. And I know Eddie and you and I have talked about this on the podcast several times. I don't think an overhaul and rebuild of the entire team in terms of players is necessary. I really think the best thing to do is to get another GM too. I mean, I'm not as critical probably as some of the other guys on our staff about Murray, because I do think he has done some good things. I just don't think that he can get us to that next level. I think we're stuck, and that's the problem. And the more that we're stuck in this part, it's going to be tough. And I think the patience is already worn thin with a lot of fans. I know it's worn thin on our staff, but if the Ducks somehow have a colossal collapse at the end of this, or I should say the next season coming around, I do think Murray's the one that has that short leash, as Phil mentioned. I think he's the one that you have to look at, because he has done some stuff, right? And then he's also gotten burned too, as we talked about with Kessler. He kind of got burned, right? Because he got hurt, lost a couple seasons out of him. Eves as well. Things that are kind of, out of a GM's hands, right? Injuries, you can't necessarily control those. So I give him a little bit on that. But yeah, overall, there hasn't been enough for me to see this team get pushed to the win now mode and everything like that. And I hope the Ducks do well next season. Even with the long break, I hope the young guys step up. even if they make the playoffs and can do a little bit of damage, I think that would be good for them. But I'm with you, Eddie. I just don't see him getting us to that next level, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sad because he's done a lot for the Ducks organization, but sometimes we need something different. I always mention this retooling word. I think it's such a cute word just to keep season ticket holders, and I think when he says something like that, you're not completely being 100% honest with the fan base, which I have another problem with. Just tell us how it is. Don't just, yeah, I know you have a marketing department. I know you have to keep your sales up. I get that, a business aspect of it, but just tell us what the hell is going on. Stop using these cute words. Stop telling us everything we want to hear during the off season or when you guys are out of a playoffs or before the next season. I'm tired of hearing words. I want actions, and maybe this team is not the team that should go on a full rebuild. Maybe, like you said, it's problems that start at the top, and maybe something that needs to fire up the rest of the team will start from the top, and that change was something that would be needed for the Ducks. Then maybe they don't have to go on this full rebuild thing. But the way it looks is just the Ducks keep trending down, and you have to fix the problem before it gets even worse, and then we end up like a team like Buffalo or New Jersey now, or like past before Arizona. The broken window theory. If you leave that broken window on that car in the street, it's just going to cause more damage. You got to fix it right away, and I think fixing it starts at the top, and maybe that sends a message to the rest of the team. Hey, if we got rid of our GM, the number one guy that makes all these decisions, if we bring in some new blood, maybe that fires up the team even more. Like, okay, let's do something now. And hey, everyone's in the chopping block. Even a person that's been on the team and our captain, hey, if they got rid of Murray and they're willing to can him and bring someone in, maybe they might buy you out. So you have to be on your toes, which I'm not saying Getsov's the problem, because I think Getzov has been playing good for his age, and I think he's one of the best captains in the league. But it might bring and get some fire under some people and under him too. So I think that's something that hopefully the Ducks would consider, Ducks ownership considers, and moving forward, because like I keep saying, that logo on the front is more important than loyalty, more important than your friendship. It's business, and the business about it is you have to win. If not, then what's the point of even coming to compete? Why don't you just call it quits or go to Quebec if you don't want to have that mentality to be a Stanley Cup contending team every single damn season you play.
Oh, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You also brought up Getzlaf on there. One last little not really a fan question, because I didn't really get a specific one when we put out the request, but had other people asking. You remember Getzlaf, they said listed his house in Coda and all that. People were wondering, is he going to get traded or what's going to happen and all that. And we talked about, he probably moved back to the beach. Well, that's what happened. He did move back to the beach. So for those of you that were asking what happened, he just moved within Orange County. So I don't see anything happening with him this year. Kind of what Eddie's talking about, but the next season is when it'll be interesting to see, if they're going to bring him back or if he's going to retire or what's going to happen from there. But at least for now, I don't see anything happening. So just wanted to touch on that real quick.
So
and then
our official Ducks and Pucks trade is Getzlaf trades one house, and he was acquired by a beach house. Cool.
There you go. Yeah, that's our big trade. Big trade news. He traded houses.
you have to put that in the whole description when you post the show. Getzlaf trade update with a little asterisk on it, because that'd be funny, because people are gonna flip out when they see that. Oh
yeah, they will. I guess next part is a little bit of league news to talk about before I bring in Thomas to talk about the draft and whatnot, which will be the last part of this. But for Eddie and I, a little bit of stuff going on around the league. I think the part kind of a thorn in Eddie's side is the Nhl Awards. Our boy Torts did not win, which we kind of figured on that. But Eddie, I think you weren't happy. One of your boys from Colorado got snubbed, don't you think?
Yeah, Nathan McKinnon again gets snubbed. The 10 Lindsay, Draisaitl, I can get. That's all the team voting. I get that. But I think the heart was more kind of a little, I want to say, popularity contesting. And I don't know. That just rubbed me the wrong way. If people, Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from Draisaitl, but I think McKinnon deserved it. He's been snubbed for a couple years now. I even think Panarin deserved the Hart before Draisaitl, but that's just me. That pissed me off. It pissed me off too that Joe Sakic wasn't even in the top three as a GM, because he made some really good moves and brought the Avalanche back to an elite team. But the worst was the best coach, Jack Adams. And I think the Torts' old school mentality and outspokenness is the reason why he didn't win, because it doesn't fit today's narrative, and it seems like the National Hockey League is not giving these awards out to people who they really deserve, but it's more that who fits the narrative and who's the safest bet. And these media guys that vote and people that vote on this want to have that safe bet and not want to explain why they made the choice they did. I think it's absolute bullshit. And I think out of all these awards, the best coach was definitely Torts, to bring Columbus, to rise them up in a team that should have been dead last. But they got them in the playoffs, and they were a force to be reckoned with, and they made some damage in the playoffs. So I just think that it's really unfortunate that he didn't even he didn't win this award. And what's worse is I think everyone in the National Hockey League and the fans know why he didn't win it, and that's just really unfortunate the way the league is trending down and kind of digressing. They were the best league in the world, but now they're just kind of stepping in and trying to get into that bullshit of the world and the world's problems, and making decisions based on that. Other than that, all the other awards, I think they were well deserved. Some people, I probably wanted the awards to be a different player, and I had reasons why, but you know what, regardless, everyone that other than the people we talked about won the award. Another one I wanted to mention, the Calder, the Hughes, the Quinn Hughes and the Makar one was so freaking close, and there's no loser there. Definitely, I'm more biased on Makar because I watch him a lot more, and I watched him in the playoffs the season before and the way he plays. But other than that, that award was probably the hardest one to pick right there, and it was just all on skill, and you can go either way, and you wouldn't have been wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought most of them went well, but yeah, for sure the one for the coach. We predicted that on the last show. We figured it was going to go that way. At least not who was going to get it, but we figured Torts wouldn't get it. So that was kind of unfortunate. So, but with that, there's a little bit more league news you want to wrap up, Eddie. You have a couple teams you want to talk about their moves and whatnot.
Yeah, the Golden Knights. Marc-Andre Fleury's agent posted a picture of him with a blade through his chest while he's in the crease, wearing a Golden Knights jersey and putting the GM of the Golden Knights on the dagger. There's been some goalie controversy throughout the playoffs with Leonard and Marc-Andre Fleury. It was reported that Leonard agreed on a handshake extension. Leonard called it, nothing's been finalized, and called it annoying. He didn't really say no, but it just kind of brings up, like, is Marc-Andre Fleury's career done in Vegas? He went on record saying he wants to finish his career in Vegas, but it might not be the whole thing. If he can, it's just it's gonna be one of those things that you can't keep that toxic environment for both goalies when this has already happened. I think the Golden Knights are going to be forced to ask Marc-Andre Fleury for a trade or to get him out of Vegas, and it's just I can't see them moving forward if they sign Leonard and both of them being in the crease. It's just going to cause too much controversy and kind of take away from the team's chemistry. That's just one of those things that we're going to keep an eye on, and one of those soap opera dramas that a lot of us fans do like. So I have some good news for Ducks fans regarding the Pittsburgh Penguins. They made a few trades. They traded Nick Bustad to the Wild for a conditional 2021 7th-round pick. And then they traded Patrick Hornquist to the Florida Panthers in exchange for one of their bottom six forwards and Mike Matheson, their defenseman. Patrick Hornquist said when he found out he was getting that Pittsburgh didn't want him, he was getting traded to Florida. It was an easy choice for him to waive his no trade clause. They also posted a picture of him. I believe it's his house, and him throwing his Pittsburgh Penguins equipment and jersey out the window. What makes this really interesting for Ducks fans and makes it really good for Ducks fans is their GM Rutherford He didn't really know it saved him a little bit of hair on the cap space. He was just like kind of like flabbergasted when they talked about it, and then he mentioned, "I'm not comfortable with it." It's like that's via Craig Mack via the Puck Empire. I think Rutherford is the most hated GM probably, and I think he's more hated than some Ducks fans hate Murray, and I think he's probably one of the worst GMs in the league. So it could be worse, Ducks fans. I'm talking about the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and someone like that. And you know what? I shouldn't even mention this because knowing my luck and Ducks fans' luck, the Samuelis will announce that they relieved Murray from his duties, and Rutherford's our new GM, and then we're really screwed.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare scenario, Eddie.
Oh yeah. So the Senators, they opted not to re-sign their, I guess their goalie that's been their goalie for a long time. It has all the records. Craig Anderson to a new contract. He played for the Hawks, the Panthers, the Avalanche, over 435 games with the Sens in 10 seasons. He's 38 years old, and he's set to become a unrestricted free agent. I don't know if it's another move that Murray can try to get an older, established goalie to be a backup, but maybe something that could be considered. And I wouldn't mind Craig Anderson wearing a Ducks jersey and backing up Gibson. And also, we talked about the Sens. They placed and bought out former Ducks forward Bobby Ryan. They felt a change was needed, and they wanted to give one of their younger guys a roster spot. Interesting, too, the Wild, they also decided not to offer a contract to their longtime captain, Mikko Koivu. You guys know the younger brother of Saku Koivu. This was kind of interesting. They're not, this guy's been with them for a long time, been their captain, been their heart and soul of the team. But you know what? It's business. They did trade Eric Stahl away, which was kind of interesting because they want to make a big change up and a shake up in their roster, but they trade one of their best players for a while on their roster. That was just kind of weird, but you know what? Good for them. I like I said, I hate the Wild more than any team in the NHL. So if they can just trade away one of their better players and get worse, then I'm all for it. Another one, the Rangers traded Mark Stahl to the Red Wings. They traded, I guess this clears up the cap space. They also sent a second round pick to the Red Wings, but that ends his contract with that. So it's the second Stahl that's been traded. So I think all eyes are on Carolina to see if Jordan Stahl gets traded. That's just a joke. He won't get traded. And other news too, and something that blew up on our Ducks social media, our DucksNPucks social media when we posted it. Sean Weiss has been sober for over 200 plus days. We posted this picture and it absolutely blew up. And the amount of fan support for him, and even other than Ducks fans were retweeting and commenting on it, was just overwhelming. It was great. His best friend Drew Gallagher has been there from day one, helping him, and it's been his rock and his confidant has been there. I did write and tagged him on social media saying, I really hope you let him know how much support he has through the hockey world. He did like the thing. He didn't respond back, but he liked it, so that's a positive. I also want to shout out Dr. Rosenthal. He donated over $80,000 worth of work for Sean Weiss to get new teeth, new chompers, and they posted that picture. He looked happy, he looked healthy, and he has a long road ahead of him, but I think he's on the right path, and I think it's going to stick this time. And I'm really proud of him, and it's really inspiration, someone that we grew up watching. And this is all of our goalies, not just Ducks fans, because I think every kid watched the Mighty Ducks movies, and that was your goalie, Goldberg. I know people didn't like Julie the Cat at first, which took his crease, but he scored the game-winning goal in that third movie, so we love him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great story, with Sean Weiss, to see him turn around like that. I mean, that was huge with all the stuff that he went through and just struggling and whatnot. So it's a really good feel-good story. With that, I mean, that's kind of wraps up the league news. Last little segment here, I'll have Thomas come on, and we're going to talk about the draft and who we think the Ducks will pick. Joining me now is Thomas. If you're new to our show or our website, Thomas Harrington does a lot of stuff for us covering the Ducks minor league players, the Anaheim Ducks as well, but mainly through the goals and European leagues and junior hockey in Canada as well. So I have him on the show to talk about the draft. Obviously, that's the next big thing since the Stanley Cup final is over. Thanks for coming on the show, Thomas.
Thanks for having me, and that was a fun final.
Yes, wasn't it? It was exciting. Eddie and I talked about it. We both picked Tampa Bay, and they ended up winning, but it was exciting for sure. With that being wrapped up and this extremely short timeline, what do you think for the Ducks? They let's kind of remind everybody that obviously we have the 6th pick in the first round, but what else do the Ducks have? How many other picks and what rounds coming up should we look forward to?
So the Ducks, they have a total of 7 picks in the draft. He said starting with 6th overall. They also had 27th overall towards the end of the first round, which they got from Boston in the Kasha trade. And then they have a second round pick, which is a 36th overall. So they've got 3 picks in the top 40, which that's great. That's really valuable. They're going to get there's some really great potential with all 3 picks. And then after that, they pick 67th overall, 104th overall, 129th overall, and 160th overall. And they don't have a 7th round pick this year.
And with the picks, so for those of you that don't know, Thomas has been writing tons of articles, which we really appreciate because he dives into this where I don't have time for this. So I appreciate the work that he does. He did an article, again, like he does annually with the Ducks trading up. He talked about the first 5 picks, which I put that one out. He's got several other ones that I'm going to be posting leading up to the draft next week. As far as the Ducks being 6th, what do you think about the Ducks trading up into the top 5, or maybe even trying to get their second first-round pick higher in the first round? How do you think the Ducks will do?
I would love a top 5 pick in this draft, especially a top 3 pick. So Alexis Lafreniere, he's going to go first overall to New York. I'd be shocked if they traded it, but they do have a couple of fingers led by Artemi Panarin who are signed long-term, so they don't necessarily need help at left wing, but I'd still be shocked if they were to trade that pick. LA has the 2nd overall pick. Ducks and Kings don't really like each other, don't really trade together. I'm pretty sure the last deal between the two teams was when the Ducks sent Sean O'Donnell to the Kings back in 2008. So it's been a good dozen years. The Ducks won't get number 2 overall either. The first one I think they actually have a chance at is the 3rd overall pick, which Ottawa has. Ottawa actually has a lot of picks in this draft. They have 3 first-round picks, and 2 of them, 3rd and 5th overall, are in the top 5. The Ducks Insiders, they do have a relatively lengthy trading history. There was, of course, the major Bobby Ryan deal 7 years ago, and since then there's been lots of minor trades. So I don't think it's likely for a deal to happen, but if the Ducks want to get a top 3 pick, this is the one for them to target. So Lafreniere is going first overall. 2nd and 3rd overall will be 2 players, Quentin Byfield and Tim Stutzel. Most have Byfield 2 and Stutzel 3, but some have that reversed. Byfield is a big center. A lot kind of see him as potentially the next Getzlaf given his size. Stutzel, he's a center winger, doesn't have that size, but he's from Germany, and we just saw a German player win the Hart Trophy from Edmonton. So a lot of people are excited about this kid's future as well. So if the Ducks want one of Stutzel or Byfield, they got to go for that 3rd overall pick. It would take quite a bit for Ottawa to give it up. It would start, of course, with the 6th overall pick, because there's no way Ottawa's dropping back very far in the first round. And then the Ducks would just say, here's everything we have. What do you want? And the Senators, they've been a tire fire for the last 2 or 3 years ago when they were in the conference finals.
Yes.
And ever since then, they've been one of the worst teams in the league. But because of that, they also have just a ton of young talent in their system. They've got one of the best prospect pools in the NHL. So I don't necessarily think they want young players. They're not going to say no to Trevor Zegras, but I don't think that's what they really want. I think they want more established players. I think someone like Raquel or someone like Lindholm, they would love, because that would really help speed them along in their rebuilding process to help shelter that young talent that they have. Now, the question for the Ducks is it worth giving up Raquel, 6th overall, probably the 27th overall pick, and then more to move up just a few spots to get one of Byfield or Stutzel? That's asking a lot. Personally, I think that's asking too much. But if let's say Byfield is there and the Ducks view Byfield as the next Getzlaf, then yes, that deal is going to be worth trading Raquel 2 firsts and something else. If it's Stutzel, I think he's very good. Personally, I'm not quite as high on him, so I don't think I would again give up that same amount. But if Anaheim views it differently and views Stutzel as that piece they desperately need to have, then sure, it's worth it. But again, I don't know if Ottawa would be willing to trade out of that pick. The only reason why I think they might is because they also have that 5th overall pick. So they're still going to have 2 picks in the top 6 if they trade back from 3 to 6. And that's why I think that's the one that's the most likely to happen in the top 3. But again, I find it very unlikely to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was laughing because I was reading your article on that one. Oh, I mean, I've read them all, but that one was the one that I had already published, and I was cracking up because you talked about the Kings and how the Ducks don't trade with the Kings. So you read my mind because before I even read the article, I'm like, okay, he's going to have these scenarios on there. I know the Kings are going to be out. That's exactly what you said, so I was cracking up on that. I am with you. I think Ottawa is the one that's intriguing because of how many picks they have, and of course having these higher picks in the first round. But it's like what you said. I was really high on Byfield before, so that was kind of the one I was looking at. And then I hear the Kings might be passing on him now. There's all kinds of different stuff being said. We all know it's going to change on a daily basis, basically. But let's say that none of these work out, right? And the Ducks do hold at number 6 with their first pick in the first round. Who do you think that they take? The first 3 are locked. What do you think? There's a lot of talk about Drysdale and Rossi, Perfetti, all these people. What do you think after the top 3 if the Ducks stay at number 6? Who's your best 1 or 2 guesses that they would pick?
So this is a really weird draft class because of the coronavirus pandemic. There were no playoffs in European leagues, in juniors. The NCAA canceled their season early, so this is one of the least scouted draft classes in decades. So we don't really know what some of these players will do in that pressure situation. So that's leading to a lot of fluidity and rankings I've been seeing as I've been going over these players. So there's the consensus top 3 of Lafreniere, Byfield, Stutzel. And then from 4 to probably 8, 9, or 10, I've seen 5 to 7 players where their names are pretty much just interchangeable. You've got Jamie Drysdale. He is a right-hand shooting defenseman and is pretty much the consensus best defenseman in the draft. You've got Cole Perfetti, who he's like Stutzel. He's a center left winger and just oodles of skill. What were the numbers he put up last year? Let me see real fast. I've got this written down.
But I'm with you as far as it being interchangeable, in that group. And then, like you said, what makes this very difficult is a good point you brought up, is because of all the lockdowns and the different things going on and the leagues being shortened. I think this is one of the most difficult years to decide, who you're going to go for when everybody's season and film has been cut a little bit short because of what's gone on. So it definitely makes it more interesting, especially outside the top 3, as you mentioned.
Yeah. So Perfetti, he is one of the best passers in the draft. He last year he played 61 games and he had 74 assists. So just a superb passer. Ducks could use more snipers than passers, but it's hard to pass on that kind of passing skill. And then besides Perfetti and Drysdale, there's also Lucas Raymond, who he's been playing in the SHL as a 17-year-old. So he's playing in a men's league as a child, essentially. And he doesn't have the high-end skill that some of these other players around him have, but he's just one of the most complete players that are expected to go in the top 10. Swedish player who plays a complete 20-foot game. That sounds like right up Bob Murray's alley.
Exactly.
And then you've got center Marco Rossi. Similar to Perfetti, he just had put up a ton of points last year. He played in the OHL, and in 56 games, he had 120 points. So he's averaging over 2 points per game.
Yeah.
He is one of the top centers in this draft. It depends on exactly who you count as a center and a winger. If you count Perfetti and Stutzel as wingers and not centers, then Rossi is probably the second best center behind only Byfield.
Gotcha.
And then there's also Alexander Holtz. Similar to Raymond, he's been playing in the SHL as a 17-year-old. His game isn't as well-rounded as Raymond, but he is arguably the best pure sniper in this draft. And what do the Ducks need? They need a goal scorer.
Hell yeah.
picturing him next to Zegras in a couple of years, I mean, that sounds like an awesome pairing to me. You've got Zegras, who has the video game type passes, and you've got Holtz, who he knows how to put the puck in the back of the net. His game isn't as well rounded as Raymond, so Murray might prefer Raymond over Holtz, but I could see Murray going with Holtz because of that goal scoring. And I think the Ducks will probably choose one of those 5 players. There are a couple of other really interesting players who some people have in the top 10. There's Jack Quinn. He's a winger. He's another sniper like Holtz. There is Yaroslav Askroff, who's a goaltender. So I don't think the Ducks are going to take him. But he's kind of the wild card. Some people view him as like the next elite franchise goaltender the way Price was viewed back in his draft year. And Price was a top 10, not top 5 pick. So Askroff could really just, if let's say Ottawa takes him at 3rd or 5th overall, that really changes how the rest of the draft board is going to go. And then another player who a lot of people could think could be very good is Anton Lundell. He's another pure center like Rossi and Byfield, and after those two, might be the 3rd best center in the draft. But I think for the Ducks, I think they're looking at Drysdale, Perfetti, Raymond, Rossi, and Holtz. I think it comes down to one of those 5 players. And since the Ducks are picking at 6th overall, of those 5 players, at least 3 of them are going to be there when the Ducks make their selection, maybe even more, depending on if Ottawa or Detroit goes off the board. So I think the top 3 picks are set, but again, if Ottawa takes Askroff or if Detroit goes off the board and say takes Jake Sanderson, who's the second highest rated defenseman in the draft instead of Drysdale, then that can really change how things go and what the Ducks might or might not do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Like you said, we'll see the first, 1, 2, 3. Pretty sure they're locked, like you said. And then after that, I think the excitement unfolds. I guess final question here. What do you think Murray does with the draft overall with all his picks? Do you think he's still going to try to go more by best position available? Or do you think he's going to be trying to look at needs of the team or maybe a combination of both?
So I think Murray usually does do a combination of both. I think he usually looks at the best player available. But if, let's say he's got a center, like let's say he has Drysdale and Rossi ranked the exact same, there's not really a difference in his mind in terms of future impact. If the team needs more defensemen than centers, he would take Rossi. If the team needs more defensemen, then he would take Drysdale. So I think he looks at best player first, but then if 2 players are roughly equitable in his mind, they're going to go with what the system needs. And I think a good example of this is actually last year's draft. Mm-hmm. Their first 2 picks, the Ducks took Zegras and Tracy, 2 forwards. And then over the final 5 picks, 4 of those were defensemen. Jackson LeCombie, Henry Thrun, William Francis, and Matthew Hill. And I think that was very intentional because so many defensemen in the Ducks system has graduated to the NHL or left the organization over the last couple of years. They really wanted to restock that talent. So I think they said, you know what, Thrun's available at 101st overall. And I bet there was another winger who they probably had rated relatively similar, but they went with a defenseman because that was what the team really needed. I think they did do a pretty good job of restocking the defense last year. I do expect a couple, but I don't expect 4 out of 5 picks to go defensively for the Ducks this year. But I think that 6th pick, they were definitely going to go who they think is the best player, because when you're picking this high in the draft, it doesn't happen very often. You really just you don't look at the organization, you look at who is the best player. Is that Rossi? Is that Raymond? Is that Holtz? Whoever it happens to be, you take that one. For Murray, I think it's probably going to be one of Drysdale, Raymond, or Rossi, one of those 3. One is guaranteed to be there. It wouldn't shock me if all 3 were there. Drysdale, he is the best defenseman in the draft. He's a right-handed defenseman. He's the kind of player teams will just, give an arm and a leg for. Rossi being the second best center, the points he puts up, if he and Zegras both work out, that would give the Ducks center depth they haven't seen in years. And then Raymond, I think, is likely just because he is that well-rounded Swedish player that Murray and the scouting staff really love. And frankly, we haven't seen them choose a player like that last year. The last time they really took a player from Sweden was Lundstrom way back in 2018, 23rd overall. So it wouldn't shock me to see them go back to Sweden for that 6th overall pick.
Awesome. A lot to digest and look at. Look forward to the draft and appreciate all the work that you do, Thomas. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And that's going to wrap up our show for this time. Next time, Eddie and I will be back. We'll talk about the draft when it concludes. We'll also look at the free agency when the window opens up. In the meantime, stay strong, stay safe, be kind, and love one another. And as always, let's go Ducks.